So today I wanted to talk a little bit about the tipping point of change, and my cat's trying to come in here and interrupt me, so now I'm forcing her to cuddle. So a lot of times when um, we have a significant change that we want to make in our lives or even in the world at large, when we want to make some sort of social change, just make the world a better place, raise our collective vibration so that we can all collectively ascend as we are all doing, whether we want to or not, in this process that we're currently in here on Earth called ascension. Sometimes it can feel like, am I ever really going to get there? Whatever it is that you have as your goal. Maybe it's bringing about world peace. Maybe it's bringing an end to racism. There are things that we want to achieve in the world or in our personal lives, like I want to have financial stability, or I want to achieve, sound health. Sometimes it feels like no matter what we do, we're never really getting there. And it's kind of like Sisyphus from Greek mythology, who was punished with this task of pushing a boulder up to the top of a hill. And right before he would reach the top, the boulder would fall back down to the bottom, and he had to just do this for eternity. I think he was punished to do this for eternity, or at least till the end of his life. I don't know. But either way, that's certainly how it feels sometimes. But I think there's a lot we can learn from that, because if we turn that on its head a little bit, and if we look at, how this has worked throughout history, we can see that it's not exactly, sometimes there are moments when it feels like the boulder falls all the way back down to the hill. And sometimes that is probably a very apt metaphor for what is actually happening. But in a lot of cases, what happens is, imagine you're Sisyphus, you're pushing that huge boulder up the hill. It's so huge that you can't really see what's ahead of you. So you don't really know exactly where you're at along the pathway at the hill. You don't know exactly how close you're getting. You're already feeling, like, gosh, this is hard. I don't know if I can keep going. But then sometimes there's that breakaway moment, that watershed moment, when all of a sudden the weight of the boulder decreases and the boulder itself starts rolling forward, and it's just, like propelling down the other side of the hill. That's like the tipping point that we often can experience, and we can see this throughout history when there have been like real watershed moments of change. People had to work real hard for that change. Didn't seem like it was ever going to come, and then all of a sudden here it is, and it's like it's so rapid and so widespread, and it's just it's like, wow, where did that come from? I used to do a lot of social justice activism around different areas, but specifically a lot to do with workers' rights and a living wage. And the people that I was doing the activism with, we would flyer a lot and try to talk to people about a living wage. This was starting in 2005, and people were like, I don't really see that that's all that important. And then in 2008, all of a sudden, there was one of those watershed moments. There was like a big recession that happened. The economy really changed. And it's not the first time we've had a recession before, but just all of a sudden, it seemed like collectively, globally, you started to see these 99% movements where, people were protesting for months and months. About the 1%, like holding the power and the majority of the world's wealth. And it's like just all of a sudden globally, the consciousness was raised, and it's like people collectively seem to understand more, like, oh yeah, this is a bit unbalanced, isn't it? That why are some people working themselves to the bone and just still barely getting by, not having access to healthcare and things like that, when there are, like all of this majority of the wealth is sort of like held by the people, by just a few people at the very top. And we can see it as well, when same-sex marriage was legalized in the US. To me, that was one of those moments as well, because I felt like it came out of nowhere. People had been working on that for a while, but it didn't seem like any real success was coming. And then all of a sudden, it federally it was legalized. And so we see that with the Me Too movement. How long have people been talking about rape culture? And and then all of a sudden the Me Too movement comes out. Like, it's partly just a matter of perseverance, and it's partly a matter of, like, sometimes you just have to have the right situation arise, which merges with the effort that you've already been putting into something. And you can see the same thing happening in your personal life as well. This doesn't just have to do with world change, but if you've always been thinking, I want to be financially stable, and it doesn't seem like I'm getting there no matter what I do, I think the message here is one of perseverance. It's not just one of perseverance, though. It's one of perseverance in the idea that there is many times a tipping point, and it will be surprising because you're not really seeing it coming. But there's that tipping point where all of a sudden it all becomes easier, and you're like, oh, okay. Suddenly I know how to be abundant financially. Suddenly the money is here, and it's because it didn't just fall out of the sky. It's because you've been putting effort into it all this time that it seemed nearly impossible, and yet you persevered. So I think persevering despite difficulty, when we really care about achieving a particular goal, that's what's going to get us there. And the reward, I think, is that often we have those tipping point or those watershed moments, which are very surprising and thrilling. So let me know what you think about this in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.